LPT students try to apply to one scholarship a week in high school and don't stop when you get to college. Nice. There are other benefits to starting early. 2. Becoming more familiar with your skills. Crafting your personal narrative. Knowing how to distill your experience into actual words on paper. These are all things that sound easy in theory, but actually doing it, especially as a middle/high schooler, is daunting. Good on you, mate. Do you have any tips you'd like to share on how you found your scholarships? And what you did that helped you find success in actually receiving those scholarships might help out a future student in their own search for success. Very true. I will edit my post to put in some resources. Edit. I forgot to address your second question. Tips for success in receiving scholarships. 1. Involvement. Quality over quantity. I was involved in 3 school organizations in high school. In 2 of those, I had school leadership positions, vice president and secretary. In 1 of them, I was state president, DECA. This took up a lot of my time and was a big selling point. Don't get involved in a bunch of things. Get involved in a few, but get deeply involved. State leadership position standout exclamation point. 2. Volunteering. Again, quality over quantity. Don't volunteer for a couple hours here and there. That is still very helpful to those organizations. But if you want to stand out on scholarship applications, volunteer for a lot of hours at 1 or 2 places. I volunteered over 250 hours at one organization that I held dear to my heart and that stood out. I even got a Presidential Service Award exclamation point. 3. Obviously, grades. If grades aren't your thing, take advantage of your high school resources. Talk to your teachers, your guidance counselors, and see if there is free tutoring offered anywhere. 4. Uniqueness. On my full ride, one of the essay questions asked about my hobbies. I talked about coin collecting, which is a weird and unknown fact about me but something I've always been passionate about. During the interview, the CEO of the Scholarship Foundation actually told me that in his 20+ years of interviews, he had never come across this hobby and it stood out to him. In other words, you don't need to sell yourself by always talking about your accomplishments. Talking about something you have passion for is awesome. 2. 5. Don't overdo it. People can tell if you use a thesaurus in your essays. Be direct and to the point. Answer the question. Don't beat around the bush with unnecessary information. Many have strict word counts, and every single word does in fact count. If you're a parent and want to save for kids' college, but keep saying, "I'll get around to it," or "I'll start saving when I get to this point in time," you need to start now. Stop what you're doing and open a 529 plan for your kid. They're super easy to open. You can choose how you want the savings to be invested: aggressive, moderate, or conservative, and you can easily set up a bank transfer to pull into it every month. The earlier you start investing, the more growth your money will have. Quit wasting time. Throw $20, $30, or even $50 a month in there, and you'll be surprised how much you can save. I'm not disagreeing with you or saying that's a bad idea when I reply to you. I'm so glad I didn't go to college. I can't believe it's so expensive to continue just getting an education that people need to start saving per month decades before it occurs, and we just act like it's normal. This country's moving so fast backwards it's astonishing to watch. I can't believe it's so expensive to continue just getting an education. Education is expensive. All of it. The national average annual cost per student for us public K-12 schools is $12,000. Link. Governing.com/gov data/education data/state education spending per pupil data. HTML. You can think of this as tuition only, since room and board aren't included or offered. But since people don't pay that out of their own pockets directly, and it's available for free from the government, we forget or fail to learn what a huge investment and expense it really is. Education isn't the only area this happens, but that's a debate for another time and place. A university education is actually often cheaper than K-12. If you go to an in-state public 4-year school, The average in-state tuition is currently $9.970/year. Link: theloupenguin.com/student loan/average cost of college. But since a person is now responsible for actually financing it themselves out of pocket, it's OMG this is so expensive. How does one accrue $12,000 for going to K-12 each year? What does it go into exactly? It's mind-boggling. General administration expenditures for establishing and administering policy to operate a school district. Expenditures include salaries, benefits, purchased services, and supplies for the office of the superintendent and board of education services. School administration expenditures for directing and managing the operation of a school. Expenditures include salaries, benefits, purchased services, and supplies for the office of the principal and full-time department chairpersons. Capital outlay direct expenditure for construction of buildings, roads, and other improvements and for purchases of equipment, land, and existing structures. Construction production of fixed works and structures and additions, replacements, and major alterations thereto, including planning and design of specific projects, site improvements, and provision of equipment and facilities that are integral parts of a structure. Debt long-term credit obligations of the school system or its parent government and all interest-bearing short-term, repayable within 1 year, credit obligations. Instruction and instruction-related expenditures includes expenditures for instruction and instructional staff support services. These are expenditures directly related to providing instruction and for activities that assist with classroom instruction. Instruction and instruction-related expenditures are more expansive than instruction expenditures, in that all instruction-related expenditures are accounted for, including salaries and benefits for teachers, teaching assistants, librarians and library aides, in-service teacher trainers, curriculum development, student assessment, technology for students but outside the classroom, supplies, and perquisite services related to these activities. Operations expenditures for the operation and maintenance of schools and school district facilities, and expenditures related to student transportation, food services, and enterprise operations. Student support services includes attendance and social work, guidance, health, psychological services, speech pathology, audiology, and other student support services. Then on top of that you've got things like water, electricity, telecom, internet and LAN administration, maintenance of facilities and vehicles, athletic events, arts and music, special education for the handicapped, instruction of limited English speakers, accommodations for the deaf or blind. Source link. Edition. gov/pubs 2015/2015303. PDF. Your local public school district should publish an annual budget report or expense audit, where you can review line item categories and per pupil expenditure in more detail. Where do you find scholarships to apply to? Google. Wow, can't believe that this post is getting so many negative comments. Good for you. I did the same back in the 90s. Was dirt poor. One parent had terminal cancer and the other was a blue-collar worker. And I had 2 jobs. Tried to apply for 100 scholarships. Made it to 50. Got some excellent college funding. It is completely true that college costs have increased 200% since then, if not more. But the scholarships still helped. I made more from the scholarships than my 2 jobs. Also, each scholarship doesn't necessarily need a unique essay. Recycle your essays. Finally, this was also back when no apps were computerized yet. Had to put them in a word processor that converted to a typewriter mode and type all of the answers on the individual lines. Super tedious and annoying compared to electronic forms of today. Solid advice. Thank you very much, and congrats to you for getting so many scholarships. I'm so sorry about your parent with terminal cancer. That sounds like a very difficult high school experience. And it is admirable how you pushed through and continue to work extremely hard. Great tip. But not everyone has time to write 50 essays. Those scholarship applications are no joke. Good on you for showing initiative and taking the time to go through that process though. It has certainly rewarded you. I sent a full ride scholarship worth like $100k in the US. One essay a week ESP when you're accustomed to writing them is worth it for the chance to get $100k. Better odds than the lottery. Rarely does a scholarship give you a full ride. These are few and far between, and usually originate from the university itself as an offer to entice you to go there. Most standard scholarships are around $1,000, but 50x $1,000. If you were to get all 50, that is, Op said it's more likely to be around 4. So 4x $1,000. Ugh, I wish I would have done this. I had no help applying for college or what to do, so this tips would have been helpful. Are you still in college? There are so many scholarships out there for current undergrads. TBH, I would love to be. Graduated with my bayon out 13 years ago. Wow, that hurt to type that. I wouldn't go back in a heartbeat if I could swing it though. I positively love to learn. The real LPT live in a country where education isn't so fucking expensive. This comment was written by the Scandinavia gang. How easy is it for an American kid to move to Scandinavia and qualify for the higher education system there? Isn't it very difficult for an American teen to get citizenship or qualify for that? Once again, commenting just about Finland, because I personally live here. Probably similar in other Scandinavian countries. Getting a Finnish citizenship is not all that difficult, but it's not a fast process. Usually requires you to have lived here for long enough. If neither of your parents were Finnish. More on the law for acquiring a citizenship. Here link. Wikipedia. org/wiki/Finnish_nationality_law. As for qualifying for education, the good news is that applications tend to be open for foreigners on almost any degree. The bad news is that if you're not a citizen of a EU country, you'll have to pay tuition. There are of course scholarships and such, but honestly, for a US citizen it's probably easier to get a scholarship there than here, simply due to more scholarships being available total. But if you do get a citizenship, then you're free to get an education here, I believe. Albeit that does mean you'd have to figure out something for a career here to make a living before you get said citizenship. So it's not exactly trivial. When I was in Finland 1991 to 92, you had to speak/read/write Finnish. No easy task for an English speaker to get Finnish citizenship. I lived in Forssa for 7 months. Played Koripallo for Kopo. Really nice little town. I enjoyed my time there. Very nice people, and I got to love the sauna. A little more sunlight would have been nice. But you can't have everything. Oh yeah. True. Totally forgot the language requirement. That is indeed a rather tough criterion. But by no means impossible. Not like they'd require perfect grammar. I agree that students should explore all of the options out there and apply for things, but a lot of scholarships require reference letters and you are going to burn out your references if you ask them for a reference letter every week or even every month. Most kids don't have so many people who can write them reference letters that they can cycle through them enough to only have to hit up each person every few months. Having said that, I can tell you as someone who worked in admissions at a university that scholarships and awards beget scholarships and awards. One of the things they look at when deciding who to give scholarships and awards to is how many scholarships and awards they have received, and it is looked on favorably to have them as opposed to being used to spread the wealth to kids who don't already have them. I can also tell you that some scholarships and awards are super competitive and your only hope is to have absolutely glowing reference letters. Like if they can't say you are the best student they have had in 10 years you have no hope, but other awards have almost no one who applies or is eligible, and they are looking for kids to give them to, and all you need to do is apply. Some people put really weird restrictions on their donation money, so it can only go to a left-handed former girl guide who is studying marine biology and comes from the north, or whatever. So, if you qualify you are getting it. Some companies have scholarships that no one knows about. One kid had a pretty decent scholarship from his parents' car insurance company, and he was only a slightly better than average student. I came here to say the same thing. Particularly about references once you're already in college. Your advisors usually have to send off dozens or even hundreds of references for students applying to programs and scholarships each year. Having a good relationship with them is important as they'll put more effort into a student they know versus a student they don't. But if you're sending them requests for references each week, that'll definitely hurt your relationship. On the second issue though, in some cases already having scholarships can hurt your chances of getting more scholarships/financial aid as you progress in higher education. Education finance is such a ridiculous world, almost like the BS of resumes and CVS. Also, your last point is so accurate. The number of scholarships that I come across that are for things like a Japanese student whose mother was Zimbabwean and father was Canadian and is studying 14th century hairband designs from Sweden is absolutely ridiculous. Don't get wrong, this is good advice. But as someone who had to work almost full time through high school and college, staying up until about 4 AM most mornings working on homework, this is unrealistic. I'm glad you had a chance to do this. But the reality is that a lot of kids that need scholarships also need to work. This is a good point. This tip was more of a guideline, but perhaps a more realistic goal is one a month. I do have to say that I had a very similar high school experience to you, and I still found one scholarship a week to be doable. As some really don't take that much effort, many I applied to required essays that were 250 words or less. The big ones definitely took me more than 1 week to apply to. Community college. A very awesome choice as well. Many community colleges offer scholarships to LPT, be an ethnic or sexual minority. Edit, being a woman helps too. As a woman of color who won a full ride based solely on my accomplishments, the scholarship application process was blind. This comment is very demeaning. Fun fact, women of color can actually win scholarships because of their hard work and past accomplishments. I worked so very hard in high school, I have to say, harder than most, and when I won, I still received comments to my face that I won because of my gender and color of my skin. Please stop perpetuating this stereotype. Edit, this comment is offensive because it's frustrating to be reduced to your gender and color, especially in my specific circumstance in which the application process was blind. There are scholarships out there just for underrepresented groups of people, and even some people of color don't support them. There are arguments for both sides. I understand the frustrations on both sides. This is the right way to beg for money in America. Touche. I totally agree with this. Achieved a full ride as well, and it was for a skill I didn't know I had. I applied to hundreds of essay scholarships and never got any of them. I saw an audition for a singing scholarship and decided, what the heck, if I don't get it, I don't lose anything, and boom. I couldn't believe it. To second what Op said, apply to as many as you can, even the ones you don't think you'll get. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing this. Thanks for reading. Close bracket. Where do you look to find scholarships available to apply to? Edited my comment to include resources. I recommend this as well. I also thought I didn't have anything special that qualified me for a more selective scholarship. I'm a white male entering the STEM field, so am viewed as a majority, but it turns out that I can get a large scholarship for being a representative of an autoimmune disease I have. Basically, there's literally a scholarship for almost anything. I'd recommend looking for the more niche ones first, but apply to every single one you think you might qualify. It doesn't hurt to try. Great practice for job hunting too. I recommend submitting applications to jobs as you start your last year of college. 100% agree. Great advice. Sometimes you may be the only one applying for that scholarship, or the field is so small others are disqualified for technicalities. It also puts you in contact with advancement folks and networks of alumni and donors. So true. There are plenty out there with very few others applying to them. This is great advice. But to add to that, students facing six-figure loan debt should consider voting when old enough for local/federal candidates who will help reform the education system so it doesn't take future generations this much time and effort. But again, as things stand now, great advice. Totally agree. Vote, vote, vote. Alternate LPT, college isn't for everyone, and doesn't necessarily guarantee a great paying job that makes an expensive degree worth it. Consider trade school, where you can be done and working in a fraction of the time with a much lower cost, and typically a pretty stable well-paying job that doesn't require paying off loans for 10 plus years. Electricians can make bank and definitely have a lot of growth with solar becoming more popular. Yep, definitely. Edited my post to say that college is just one path of many. I agree. It wasn't targeting your pro tip, but was more focused on adding to it. Too many people think college is a must and don't know nearly enough about trade school and how they aren't all dead-end back-breaking jobs just trying to make ends meet. My parents pushed me to college because they were in the mindset that it's the only way to get a good paying job, and now I'm sitting in a mediocre middle class life. I know people that went to trade schools and became electricians that make almost twice as much as me and started work in their field before I even graduated. I've honestly debated taking a pay cut and starting an apprenticeship with some electricians. Know that it could pay out better down the road than what I'm doing now. There are pros and cons to college for sure. I personally was not going to turn down a full ride, but I think trade school would have been an amazing path for me as well. Who knows? I might look into that as well. Often if you're a couple weeks into a college semester, the places offering scholarships and bursaries are trying to get rid of what's left, so even if you don't think you are eligible, apply anyway. Could get a couple bucks. This is a great tip. Further LPT, apply to every scholarship, even if they don't apply to you. I knew a guy in my class who was pocketing like 16 grand a semester during community college and applying to scholarships as his job. There is very obscure scholarships that are for specific races, genders, etc. Just apply anyway. He was Latino, but had a few Black and Asian based scholarships he was awarded simply because he was the only person who had applied. The offices of the school can help find lists and lists of scholarships, grants, and financial aids you can apply to. Military offers a full ride scholarship as well. I went that route. Best decision of my life. Do you need to wait until junior or senior year to apply? Definitely not. There are even scholarships for middle school students nowadays. This would probably be a great pro tip if I had seen it earlier in the year and if I had above a 2.0 GPA. I applied for 4 scholarship. Got 2. Easiest money I ever made. Good tip. And go blue. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.